What I think a lot about is the science around the art. First 3 seconds, thumbnail. What time do we post? Literally, my team, we will post this today at 6:36 p.m.
Ideal times today, 4:04 and 6:36. One reel, one image. It is that specific. For the reel, recommendation is a reel of you on stage.
I promise you this is a level of commitment that's very different than post that picture. So the science around the art. Attention is the #1 asset. Would love to do a little Q&A and maybe go a little more detailed. I'm ready to go. Who's got something?
Gary, you talked about how you made investments early in some of the content companies like Facebook. Do you think your investments into those companies formed your idea of what was important for the future, or do you think it was the opposite?
The opposite. The opposite. What was very clear to me, I referenced it, I launched an e-commerce wine business in 1997. Like for real, not like ha ha ha, like I was operating it every day. I remember people walking into my store and asking them for their email to create an account, and like people didn't even have email yet. Or they would say funny things that I laugh about now. I remember one guy, he's like, oh yeah, I have one of those. He's like, I'm AOL@yahoo.com. Like, that's not it, brother. Going from that to people telling me they wouldn't put their credit card into the computer, to running catalogs that used to cost me $70,000 to print and mail, to now sending an email for free and selling more wine than I did 2 years ago in a catalog with no cost. So I was rolling, and then Google came out, and Google AdWords came out several months later. I bought Google AdWords the day that Google AdWords were being sold, and was buying wine terms for 5 and 10 cents a click and acquiring customers for nothing. So this was all happening, and then 2003 happened, and it was starting to be blogging, and it was the first thing I never got involved in, because even though I've written 5 New York Times best-selling books, Raghav, are you here? Where is he? He's not here. I'm literally I'm gonna leave right now, right after this, and get on a flight back to New York for 5 hours, and my ghostwriter and a guy on my team, Raghav, was with me just now, is literally gonna sit there with me, and he's gonna read me back what I audioed to him so I can tweak a couple of the words to finish up my book. So blogging was the first big trend I saw that I wasn't able to jump into because I can't write. And so when Friendster and MySpace came out, I was so pumped because I was like, this is the next wave. This I understand. I was watching it, and then it's all timing too. My brother was a freshman at BU the first Facebook year. And BU was like the 3rd school to get it, and went like Harvard and a couple other Boston schools. And he called me, and he came down for Thanksgiving, and I looked at it, and I was like, this is it. And the reason I said this was it was I'd gone from, that was 97, in an 8-year period, we went from people not even understanding the internet fully, to then people realizing they could look up, remember it was like more research if you think about the beginning, to now buying stuff, and I just knew that we were gonna communicate with each other on it. And so, no, I believe that the next wave of the internet was gonna be human connection, and that's why those social networks caught my attention.
Matt from Writer, we're the generative AI platform that's sponsoring this today. Thanks for coming. Gary, when you talk about LinkedIn and how much of an opportunity it is, can you help us refine like what you see in that opportunity? And then we'll talk about content creation.
That everyone here, regardless of what you want to happen, what customer do you want, B2B, B2C, or by the way, there are people in here who might want a career change. Whatever your objective is, the fact that you could not have, this room, have never posted in their life, if Garrett has never posted on LinkedIn in his life, the fact that he can make a video or a written post about whatever he wants to say, post it on LinkedIn tonight, and that gets 800 people to see it, is crazy. Let me explain what I mean. Social networks for the last 15 years has been more like email. You get people to follow you, you then post, and a percentage of them see it. Just like email open rates, right? When I was doing email in the late 90s, 80 to 90% of the people that got the email opened it. Now 30%, if you have a great email, right? I see some of the heads nodding. So, it's supply and demand of attention. The TikTokification of all social networks is the biggest trend going on in the world right now. So the example I just gave about Garrett, 5 years ago, would have posted on LinkedIn, and one person would have saw it. One of the 3 people he has to follow him because he decided he's gonna start. The fact that his first post can get 800 because the algorithm is gonna look at the content and service it to a small group of 20 or 30 random people that it thinks will like what he had to say. And if of that 20, 30, 40, and I don't know the exact numbers, everyone's algorithm is obviously very secret, but a tiny group of people will see it. If it's compelling to that group, it will be brought into more people's feed. Not only could he get 800, he could get 1 million. Very unlikely, needle in a haystack. But the fact that that is true, just think about what I just said. Free distribution. Think about how expensive distribution is. Think about how much you spend for a newspaper ad, a Google ad, a television ad, a booth at a big conference. Like, distribution and awareness is expensive. Social networks are free. That is insane. And people do not understand the severity of the insanity of how big that is. For the first time ever, the quality of your message creates free distribution. That is insane.
So what happens when creating content is now dramatically less expensive because of things like generative AI? How does that impact LinkedIn?
It's gonna impact everything. What's gonna happen is a term called prompt engineering is gonna start to be something everyone here knows what it is. So in a world where companies like yourselves and many others take the advantage away that I have, my personal brand, GaryVee, the content you see, I have 37 full-time employees. 37 full-time employees who work on my content, making and distribution across the 8 platforms. Think about the level of commitment that I've made for that. The fact that everyone here now can buy a SaaS product and make more content than I make for a fraction of that will mean that we will have more supply of content than we've ever seen before. I'm not gonna put my head in the sand. We're gonna use generative AI as well. And Dustin and Raghav, they're gonna get fired and have to find new jobs. But what will happen, and I'll finish the thought, is their jobs will have to change. What Dustin does incredibly well as he films me, but he's also paying attention, he's making notes. There was the gentleman, he's not here, who said, "You inspired me in the talk just now. I called my son to say I'm sorry for being a dick."
Hey, thanks for the inspiration. I took some action today, talked to my son this morning, told him I was sorry for being a dick.
That's humongous.
So you
that's
really
the biggest thing you
made
can
an
do.
impact straight away.
That means the world to me.
Cheers to you.
That means the world to me, brother. Good for you. You can't imagine how big of a deal that will be.
Well, thank you. You're an impact.
You know how much he appreciated that?
Absolutely.
Good for you.
God bless.
Proud of you.
Thanks.
It was a really emotional thing for me. That's a big deal. That's why I speak for a living. Like that little moment. But I looked at Dustin when that happened and gave him my contact and he made a note, and that will show up on my content in the next week or so. With all the technologies coming, I'm not gonna have to look at Dustin. We're gonna upload that video. It's gonna understand rhythms and patterns from AI of things that have worked for me. And me and Dustin in our gut are no longer gonna do post-production. The AI is gonna figure it out and put it out. What is that gonna mean? Supply and demand issues. And so what's gonna happen is it's gonna be harder to break through because everyone's gonna be doing it. And so you're gonna have to be better.
So my question to you, Gary, is what is attention hacking? Can you give us some examples and some best practice?
Yeah, so I'm writing the book I'm working on, which will come out next year, is actually called Day Trading Attention, right? That's how I think about what I do for a living. If obviously, I think the term day trading is something most of the people in here will know. Somewhere along the line with technology, Wall Street became second to second, not hour to hour with paper. It became day trading on your computer. So hacking attention, or the way I think about it, day trading, is a very simple and complicated game. Where are you all spending your time? Where? Like, where are your eyeballs and ears going? 50 years ago it was television and newspapers. And so you would try to then make the best print ad to make you buy. I did that in my career. I used to spend a week making my New York Times full page ad. A week. I would be 8 hours a day. A week. Should I put this wine in this corner? Should I have a coupon down here? Like real thinking. Now that same thinking goes into the first 3 seconds of every video I put on LinkedIn. It goes into the thumbnail. Some of my friends here are doing a really good job on LinkedIn. We were hanging out backstage and I said to him, hey, you gotta pay attention to the copy because LinkedIn, only the first 50 letters show up and then you have to hit, learn more. Most people won't do that. If you have a call to action link in the first 50 thing, you're gonna get a higher retention, right? Or, or how do you actually, think about what's happening. You're all doing it, all of you minimally. I'm aware that some of you don't have anything, not LinkedIn, not Facebook, but the far majority of this room is doing this on something. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts. How do you get someone to stop? Especially with more content coming. So what I think a lot about is the science around the art. First 3 seconds, thumbnail, words. What time do we post? Literally, right now, I'll show him and he can confirm it to you. My team, this is the thread with the whole team on it. Look at this. We will post this today at 6:36 p.m.
It is that specific.
And read the whole.
Ideal times today, 4:04 and 6:36, one reel, one image. For the reel, recommendation is a reel of you on stage.
I promise you this is a level of commitment that's very different than post that picture. So the science around the art, but then also following trends. Like when Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are eating up popular culture, is there any way for you to interject into that conversation that doesn't feel forced? How clever are you? How creative are you? I saw a really good post by a B2B company where the two heads of the company, one person's name was Travis and one was Taylor. They were both dudes, but it was perfect, right? Because, they were able to make a reference, and I looked back, it was their highest performing post ever, right? So I'm looking at the pulse of society. You know how many people lost customers by posting during inappropriate times? So you have to have a feel for the room, which is the world. You have to know your demos. I'm making content on LinkedIn for just VCs, and the next post just to get clients, and the next post just to get talent to apply to VaynerMedia. All three of those videos are very different. I was telling those guys, everything they make is just about selling the SaaS, but they should make videos to get better talent on their sales team. They should make videos about how they run company culture. They should make, by the way, a thing that all of you should do on LinkedIn is make a post about your interests. Maybe it's French wine, maybe it's golf, maybe you're playing pickleball. You might post on LinkedIn that you have fallen in love with pickleball, go into the fact that hour now, every day that you play pickleball in the morning makes you fresher to be better at work. And because someone who you're trying to reach as a customer or an employee also likes pickleball, that just created consideration based on relevance for them to do business with you. So everyone's showing up in LinkedIn in their fucking suit and tie, right? But in reality, you need to show that version and this version. Definitely. That you're in, notice, I always say, watch what I'm doing, not what I'm saying, pay attention to how I give a keynote. I will make references to the New York Jets. I will make references to wine. I'm creating connection points. And all of you should be doing that in your content. If you're just saying the same thing of our tech works better, cool, but you can only say it so many times. AI companies should be talking about time savings. You put a photo of a person watching their child play basketball in a gym, and then you say, use our tech and save an hour every day so you can go watch your kid play basketball. Watch how many people stop. That's a very different emotional connection point, because inevitably somebody on the other side of that LinkedIn post is sitting in the office right now missing a recital or a game and feels we all are modern parents. We feel like shit. Our parents didn't give a fuck. We feel like shit. We feel like shit, and all of a sudden that hits you and say, wait a minute, maybe that's why I should pay up for the tech, because I do want that hour back, because I do want to eat dinner with my family once a week. And that's real shit. Just the real way humans work. And so my efficiency on that post will go up. This is real shit. It's why I laugh how people think about social media. People look at social media it's bad, it's ruining the world, or my kid's all fucked up, or it is disproportionately the most significant engine of business growth on earth. And there isn't a close second. And yet everyone is lollygagging the shit out of it. There are less than 2 handfuls of people in that audience that have the commitment towards LinkedIn that is required for an industry like this that will actually drive their business. They will spend so much more energy designing their booth for this incredible conference than they will for all their content on LinkedIn this whole year. And this is a big time, this is the Apex Super Bowl event, but it's still only 3 fucking days. There's another 362 fucking days. And not everyone's here. And you're not gonna serendipitously run into everyone you're trying to get to here, no matter how late you stay up tonight. You know, and so I don't understand how people don't understand the scale comes from LinkedIn.
On that note, you talked about.
Dust, I want that for something. See?
Yeah. No, what fascinates me is you said you have a staff of 37 for your personal brand, and then an agency, right, and VaynerMedia and 2,000 other employees.
And then VeeFriends has 50 employees.
How important is it for everyone to have a personal brand focus beyond just the business at the end?
I don't think it's a requirement. I don't think everyone needs to have a personal brand. I think everyone should consider it. It's not for everyone. There's a lot of baggage that comes with being a public figure. Now, most people won't have the level of public figureness that I have. So I think for a lot of people, especially in a B2B environment, I think it's epic. Because there's nobody here who's the next fucking Taylor Swift or Charli D'Amelio. Like, it's not that kind of industry for that. So I think, but what it will be is it leads to this conference inviting you to be on stage next year. Like, there's a lot of value in it in B2B. B2C is a little scarier because it can change your life. If you became internet famous, your life's different. And there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that. And a lot of people don't even, I'll be honest with you, I'm not very interested in, how many people here really follow me? Like, just for context? So all of you know, I don't share my personal life. I'm deeply private, deeply private. I just am so aware of the business ramifications of it. But why did I say that? You're in control. You don't want people in your business? Don't post it. I think to remind people, first, it's not for everyone, and that's okay, you don't have to. But I do think a lot of people think of it as only like high energy, dynamic person. It's not. There's a lot of very introverted, very thoughtful, very articulate, very deep thinking writers that crush, especially for this industry. You go write a white paper that really is right about what's happening and like talks about your solution and why it will work, you will be stunned how much that will work. So you gotta find your way of communicating. I think it's worth considering, but it's not a requirement. There are plenty of people who have monster businesses that has no personal brand attached to it. It also could lead to happiness. Let me explain. So now you're getting going a little bit with what we're talking about here, but you remember like, wait a minute, he did mention that I could post other stuff, and you post your first ever video cooking, ever. You love to cook, it's your place, it's where you feel like you're most you, you're even a little funnier, a little more dynamic, right? And you just film cooking a meal and you're talking, and you just post it, and it fucking explodes. And you find yourself 2 years from now being literally a food influencer and making more money with brands supporting your food videos than you were doing being a senior executive. I believe it is a path to happiness. I genuinely believe a lot of people here have deeper passions than what you're doing right now for your living. And I think it's worth potentially scratching those itches.
So, Gary, on stage, you have a very specific way that you exhibit yourself and use hands, gestures, and you have your hat, and, you know.
Yep.
Is all that by choice? And
the reverse. Yeah, it's really funny. I love that both of your questions kind of have the same answer. When I first hit the scene, I wrote a book in 2009 called Crush It, which really talked about what I thought was gonna happen and ended up happening with social media and all this. It went very viral. I was pretty unknown. I was in the wine world, but definitely not in the business world. And I started getting asked to speak. And I don't know if you picked up on this, but I curse. And I'm very casual. And today, the way I'm dressed on stage, even in an event like this, you can kind of somewhat get away with it. The casualization of business over the last 15 years has happened. In 2009, it wasn't there yet. And CAA was my speaking bureau at the time. And they called me, because I was naturally good at it. I didn't know that I was a good public speaker. And you could see how I speak. It's very improv. It's very it's not a presentation. Even for the people that follow me the most, they'll see things that I say often, but there's always new shit. It's contextual. My speaking bureau reached out to me like pretty aggressively in like a good way. They came from a good place. They're like, bro, you could be like a legitimate speaker. Like you could be big. Like this could work for you. And it's very lucrative. But you have to start wearing a suit and you can't curse. And they didn't even finish the sentence. And I said to them, I'm like, thank you. Because they were coming from a good place. I'm like, you just don't know me. I'm not capable of that. I'm just really great at one thing, which is being comfortable in my own skin and dealing with the ramifications of that, pro and con. That is my greatest skill set. So all of that is just really how I live my life. And I'm okay that people won't book me to speak because they don't want someone to curse or they think it's disrespectful to be too casual. I respect that. That's their house. That's their event. They're allowed. But I'm not interested in feeling uncomfortable because I can't be my best self. When I'm speaking, I want to impact people. Like, all of you just saw that talk. I was like reinforcing over and over the same thing because I know there's like 3 or 4 things for that collective group, knowing there was a lot of different people in there. Those were the 3 things that if they did, better shit would happen. And like, if I'm not comfortable, I'm not gonna be able to authentically like hit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm aware that there's people in there that thought it was inappropriate that I cursed. I believe that every time. Like, I believe that and I respect that. But I also know on the flip side, that talk has much more impact on the collective than most talks that would be given. And that's all you could ask for, right? Have as big of an impact. So no, I'm not like Vince McMahon and like creating a character that I think will work. I just got very fortunate that the world went in my direction. I always think about myself of like, who the hell would have I been if I was doing business in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? It would have been tough because I wouldn't have gone there. And I would have been some sort of different thing. I mean, it might have been better. I might have been very unique and a trailblazer, but no, I'm just not comfortable of doing anything that doesn't come naturally to me. I just always feel like it's icky and off. And me like not in my pure form is like bad.
So my last kind of insurtech was we put in space, did the VC train, built it, sold, got acquired, integrated in, left, starting a venture studio. Curious with the VC landscape, the pros, cons of the venture studio model, new asset class.
I mean, the venture studio concept, which I've flirted with a lot, these are like where you're incubating multiple businesses. I assume you're bringing in some founders, you own a piece. Like, it's, honestly, I really, really love that concept because I'm very creative and I have 100 ideas. So I think this will be your most enjoyable venture because you're gonna be able to scratch a lot of inches. What inevitably happens in these models is if you're good, one's gonna take off and then that's gonna eat up a lot of energy. So you gotta keep that in mind if you want that or not want that. But what do I think? I think money's expensive right now. There's nobody in this industry that's confused by interest rates. So money's expensive, so it changes all the rules. The VCs have all the leverage after they have had none in the last decade. Like, you literally had to beg people to take your money. Think about that.
That's crazy.
Right? Now, VCs have the leverage, which I think is more appropriate. I think it was a little frothy, a little bullshit. I don't think people were building companies. They were building financial arbitrage machines, trying to get to it. You know what I mean? So, me personally, I think being a VC right now is great. Your money's more valuable. It's harder to get LPs. So it depends on how much powder you're sitting on. And then as far as a venture studio model, I think the more creative you are, the more it's the right model. Because otherwise you're just a financier. And it's boring for operators.
We're doing like hybrid too. It's not just about unicorns. If it's cash flow, like creating cash value.
Go figure.
I know, right? But a lot of
I know. But that's because venture capital just wants to show a multiplier to raise more LP. Like, it's a full ecosystem. I think you're going down in the right way.
What would be your next venture?
It's funny. Similar to the other questions, like I'm a counter puncher. I'm a counter puncher.
What does that mean?
It means that I don't sit and say, I want my next venture to be bubblegum or SaaS. That because I day trade attention, I'm just kind of constantly watching. I'll give you themes that you might find interesting. I'm completely infatuated with the continent of Africa, the sheer talent and brain power and the youth. I think the stat goes something like, in the next 15 years, like 35% of the people under 25 in the world will live on the continent of Africa. So I like using history as a predictor. So if you really pay attention to what's happened in the Middle East in the last 30 years, you can see obviously there's so many different geopolitics, there's a lot that's different, but there's a lot that's the same. So for example, I don't know what my next venture is, but I know that I'm incredibly bullish on Africa. And so what that will do is it will make me read for 2 hours about things going on in Africa, which may lead to something as interesting as, there's a super fruit that only grows in Kenya, right? That I know the African market in the next 30 years is gonna be mature as a consumer market, but I could also import it to the US and get all the coastal people that are trying to live that life curious. I did that with monk fruit. My fiance is very healthed out and she's like, in Pillow Talk, she's like, you have to do something with monk fruit. And I pulled up an email that I sent to Phil Toronto who works for me, in 2013. And it just said, monk fruit, we need to research it. She was blown away. And it was like a perfect story I could tell all of you of like how I actually work. I stay uncomfortably curious around different theses. And then because of that, right? So I'm building a Pokemon meets Sesame Street intellectual property called VeeFriends. I've been wanting to build something like it for a long time. Originally it was called Workplace Warriors. I was gonna do little toys and figurines for your desk, because I think a lot of us know like what cubicles look like. But I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2013, 15, and was watching it. And then when I saw the NFT thing was starting to mature, I decided to launch the IP as an NFT, while equally making videos that 99% of NFTs were gonna go to zero. So it was a very complex, I'm all in on the macro, be careful of the micro, but now I'm very far along. Yesterday I was in New York City on a float for the Halloween parade, trading. If you go to eBay right now and type in VeeFriends, you will be blown away with the pins and stickers and trading cards. I'm announcing a major YouTube Kids initiative with some of the biggest animators in the world. I'm actively building a Marvel, a Hello Kitty, a Pokemon right now. I didn't really think 3 years ago that that's what I was gonna do. So I stay very curious about a lot of things, and then I act on it. But you have to be careful to not just follow a trend, because you think it's a trend, crypto this, cannabis that, right? AI this. You see those kind of people who are just always on to the next thing. For me, I am on to the next thing a lot, but it's always fitting a strength or something I've been thinking about. It's why I started a marketing company first, after I left my dad's business. I knew that marketing was my superpower, so I wanted to build a huge infrastructure. Do you guys know Resy, the restaurant app?
Yeah.
That was incubated at VaynerMedia.
Wow.
I'm the co-founder of Resy. So Resy was built inside of Vayner with people outside and inside of Vayner joining it. I started a direct-to-consumer wine brand called Empathy Wines that I sold to Constellation. So I built a marketing infrastructure, almost like an operating system, so that I can then groom that talent and then put them into other ventures who know my way, which is very much what I spoke about. What I spoke about is unique. I really do care about kindness in the workplace and safety. I'm pretty sure most of the keynotes at this conference over the years have not spent 15 minutes on kindness in company culture. I think it's foundational. And so you can imagine I'm better off grooming talent that believes in it, because it's hard to teach people it because they don't believe you. Everybody says they care about culture, but nobody does. So these are things I think about. So thank you.
Gary.
Thank you.